Have you ever wondered which Gen 3 starter could traverse Hoenn the fastest? Would it be Blaziken with its crazy high physical attack? Sceptile with an outrageous special attack and speed stat? Or how about Swampert, which seems to learn almost the perfect moveset to sweep through most of the game? We all know that Mudkip is the chosen starter for the best speedrunning times. But what if you could only use your starter in battles? Would that change who we pick? Well, today we find out the answer to that question. For this race, you'll be watching each playthrough at roughly the same time. Occasionally, we will highlight crazy AI mistakes, lucky critical hits, or just funny moments throughout the playthrough. We will keep a running tab on who is currently sitting in first place on the bottom right hand side of the video, and we will show how far the second and third place Pokemon are behind after each checkpoint. Speaking of, what are our checkpoints? Our checkpoints in this challenge will be after we arrive at Dewford Town, after we catch the legendary Numel, after beating Dad in Petalburg Gym, right after we beat our rival for the third time, and right before we challenge the Elite Four. Alright, before we begin, let's talk about our preview and prediction for the race. To be honest, after doing the untimed 3 runs, I think this is going to be a really interesting race. Sceptile will dominate the late game with its high speed and special attack, as well as the ability to use multiple TMs for gyms and the Elite Four. It can also beat the Elite Four at the lowest level. It might struggle early on and fall behind in the race, but because of the variety of moves it can learn, I have my hopes that it will make the race competitive. Blaziken will be carried through most of the game with its high attack stack and the ability to use bulk up in most battles. This is going to make its attack stat quite high, and with moves like double kick and blaze kick, it probably won't be challenged too much, except there will be 2 really difficult battles to navigate, which you'll see in the video. In Pokemon Emerald, Swampert learns really good moves for this generation, isn't challenged by really any gym leader, and also doesn't really excel at anything like Blaziken or Sceptile. However, when you can learn Surf, Earthquake, and Ice Beam, well, that's all that really needs to be said about Swampert's moveset. So who is it going to be? The late game speedster Sceptile? The fiery glass cannon sweeper Blaziken? Or the slow and steady pace of Swampert? Comment below what you think, or use the link in the description to answer. Who do I think is going to win? Well, like I said, on my pre-runs for this race, I didn't set a timer, so my guess may be as good as yours. I have a hard time not picking my favorite Blaziken to win this race, but I'm not sure how we're going to handle the obscene amount of water Pokemon in this game, and a few challenging fights. So I guess that would make Sceptile the favorite, right? With all those water Pokemon? But during my pre-run play, it seemed to really lag behind the other 2. And Swampert was just too consistent throughout the game, against every gym leader and Elite Four member, so I think I'm going to predict that Swampert will be our champion, even if I don't really want to. Lastly, before we begin, there is also a human element to these runs as well. I'll do my best to stay as consistent as possible. I hope by the end of this video you will be confident enough to say that the winner of our race is truly the best starting Pokemon in Gen 3. But as you see mistakes pop up, just have some grace for me, please. Now, let's get into it. I'm pretty excited to share with you some of my thoughts of how this race went. Right away, you'll notice that I want to level up a little bit with Trico and Torchic before taking on my first rival. Mudkip takes the early game lead here because, well, Trico has the lowest base attack stat of the 3 starters and doesn't really pose a problem for my Mudkip. I don't want to lose the first fight against my rival with Trico and Torchic. I honestly don't know if this is the fastest route, but I thought that the experience you got from winning this fight was too valuable to lose, and it just seemed faster to only have to do it once. Torchic falls to the 3rd early on because, well, I need Torchic to evolve into Combuskin and learn Double Kick in order to beat Roxanne, so I have to spend more time fighting trainers. Also, Mudkip would have had a faster time if it hadn't accidentally ran into a lovely Seedock that only wanted to use Harden. But, you know, Pokemon AI. When we get to Rustbrittle City, one thing starts to become really apparent. Trico's low attack stat is really starting to show, and Absorb, a grass special attack, only has a power of 20. This makes the early game trainers quite a bit harder for Trico than the other 2. As we enter Rustbrittle City, we see Mudkip is holding on to the lead pretty well. We head straight for the gym with Trico and Mudkip because we know that we can take Roxanne out with Water Gun and Absorb. Even if it takes a million Absorbs to finally take out Nosepass. Instead of going to the gym with Torchic, we head north for some more training, hoping to get our Combuskin as soon as we can. we evolve and learn Double Kick at level 16, head back to the gym, and waste no time plowing down the Rock-type Pokemon and move on. Something that really surprised me during these runs was how useful Rock Tomb is. As you know, Rock Tomb is the TM that you get from Roxanne. Every time I played through this game as a kid, I thought this was a pretty useless TM. However, one thing that Team Magma and Aqua loves is Zubats and Golbats. Usually not that big of a deal, right? Well, Blaziken and Sceptile are both weak to these pesky little bats, so acquiring Rock Tomb from Roxanne is actually one of the first early game tactics that I didn't think was going to be very useful. Like I mentioned in the soft rules, something we will have to do with every run is get some Pokemon who can use our HM moves for us. So after defeating Roxanne and obtaining the Poké Navigator, I pause the timer for each run and go catch a Zigzagoon and Taillow. This actually became very important in hindsight because it took me 10 minutes to complete this with Torchic and less than 5 for both Trico and Mudkip. I'm glad we decided to do that. Zigzagoon will use Surf and Rock Smash in this run, and we'll use Taillow for Fly later in the game. I try to catch them at the lowest levels possible and then deposit them into our PC box, only to really use them when needed so we can maximize the difficulty of the few mandatory double battles we'll have, like those Blessed Twins and Moss Deep City. As we arrive in Dewford Town, we come to our first checkpoint. Marshtomp is leading the way at 16 minutes and 35 seconds. Combusken's sitting at second place with a time of 18 minutes and 39 seconds, and Grovyle is climbing along in last place at 21 minutes and 51 seconds. So what do you think at this point? Will Marshtomp continue to build its lead, or will Combusken and Grovyle close the gap as they get access to stronger moves? After delivering the lovely letter to Steve, why can't you be Pokemon Trainer Red instead? Nah, just kidding, we love you, Steve. We head off to our second gym leader battle, Brawly. Well, we do with Combusken and Marshtomp, but not with Grovyle. One of the next strategy things I learned while doing this race is how much Grovyle struggles with Brawly. On my first playthrough, it took way too long for Grovyle to beat Brawly. His dang tanky Makuhita was just too much for us. So, because we don't actually need Flash until Victory Road, we skip Brawly with Grovyle and head straight to Slateport City to meet our favorite Blue Crew members for the first time. Meanwhile, Combusken and Marshtomp go ahead and take on Brawly. It takes me a few tries to knock Brawly and his tanky Makuhita out, but after a few double kicks and tossing some dirt in their eyes, his Makuhita falls. Makuhita. That's a tough one. And we have completed the second gym and acquired the legendary TM Bulk Up. This TM will end up carrying Combusken and Blaziken through most of his fights. Again, this was another TM that I thought was pretty useless when I was younger. I mean, if a move doesn't directly take away HP, then it's pretty useless, right? The fact that Combusken can use this move will make our favorite Fiery Bird, well, quite powerful. Oh, did you catch that? Combusken has officially taken the lead. How long do you think he'll hold on to it? Hey, Grovyle, how you doing being paralyzed over there in Slateport City? Marshtomp and Combusken arrive in Slateport and have their first meeting with the lovely Mr. Archie. Ha, I don't think we'll be seeing you anytime soon. And make our way to the next rival fight. Now, this fight is a little tricky. At this point, our rivals Combusken knows Ember and Peck, and both are two-shot kills against us. Grovyle knows Absorb, and Marshtomp knows Water Gun. So yeah, on a normal playthrough, this fight is a piece of cake. However, on these solo runs, we actually had to be a little bit more strategic than normal. As long as Combusken can get a few bulk ups in on Lombre, he makes quick work of Marshtomp with Double Kick, and moves on at level 23. Marshtomp struggles a bit with Grovyle and Absorb. I thought at level 25 that we would be fine, but Grovyle lands a critical hit, and that is the end of that fight. After coming back at level 26, I know that I can take 3 Absorbs without dying. And remember what I said about Rock Tomb? Here is a perfect example of why it is useful. Now for Grovyle. Well, this is a different story. In my pre-runs, it took me until level 26 to win this fight. However, some great Pokemon AI comes through for us. We finish off Wingull with, you guessed it, Rock Tomb. And instead of using back-to-back Embers, Combusken goes for Focus Energy. I thought we had it in the bag. Lombre comes out with a Quick Swift. No big deal, right? We got this. Next attack. Boom. Critical hit. We are looking at 7 HP left for Grovyle. I'm thinking in my head, save time, reset the game, try again, go level up. But Lombre comes in with an Astonish instead of Swift, taking us down to 2 HP. We finish it off with a quick attack, and we are on our way to Watson. At this point, Wally has a Ralts, and well, there isn't much to say about that. Watson brings another unique challenge. Marshtomp rolls through this fight because, you know, that whole water ground type immune to electricity thing. Combusken is leading the way at this point, but takes a bit longer on Watson thanks to some timely self-destructs by Voltorb. We try and try and try at level 26, but to no avail. We come back at level 28, bulk up against Electrite, and sweep Watson. Now, Grovyle is another story. No matter how many times I tried on the pre-run, it seemed impossible to beat this fight without Leaf Blade, which Grovyle doesn't learn until level 29. I mean, look at this damage output against Magneton. Thanks Gen 2 for introducing Steel types to us. Once we had Leaf Blade in our arsenal, we were able to beat Watson after a few tries, just as long as we didn't get critted by a quick attack. After finishing up Watson with each Pokemon, we make our way north in hopes to catch the legendary Numel. We've been told here at Nook's Corner that Numel is an excellent Pokemon for moving big boulders. We arrive first with Marshtomp at 38 minutes and 43 seconds. Making quick work of Watson's gym, Marshtomp moves back into first place. Coming in second is Combusken, who, with a few more lucky AI moments, could very well be leading the way. He sits at 42 minutes and 21 seconds. And last but not least, our beloved Grovyle. We predicted this would happen, but I don't think we thought that Grovyle would be almost 16 minutes behind Marshtomp at 54 minutes and 8 seconds. At this point, we will be carrying Zigzagoon and Numel with us for the rest of the game, except gym battles and the Elite Four. If we were to die in a regular battle with more than one Pokemon, then to save time, we will just reset back to our last save instead of waiting for the trainer to knock out Zigzagoon and Numel. As we approach our first fight with Team Magma, we see Marshtomp to really pull away, until it seems that the game wants to even the playing field. I didn't intentionally try to run into these trainers, but I think the game got confused with whether we were playing Mario Kart or Pokemon. Although none of these trainers are worse than the dreaded Pokemon breeder Lydia. At first glance, this is an easy fight. But as we look at those six level 11 Pokemon, this is going to be a tough one for our timer. Maxie didn't provide much of a challenge for Marshtomp or Combusken, both winning on the first fight. At this point, Combusken and Marshtomp are neck and neck heading into the 4th gym. I realized that I should have taught Combusken Rock Tomb by this point to deal with Zubat, but considering that Combusken and Marshtomp are so close in time, I figured that it didn't seem too trivial. Both of these Pokemon are well suited to deal with Flannery. Combusken will bulk up a few times and sweep the team, and since Marshtomp has Water Gun, well, that's all that really needs to be said. The next few fights for Grovyle are going to be, you guessed it, incredibly difficult. We have to deal with Maxie's Zubat and Camerupt, Flannery's Fire Pokemon, go all the way back to take out Brawly before facing off against Dad and Petalburg. And you all know what comes in the 6th gym battle. So we'll just kind of see how it goes. Hopefully Grovyle doesn't fall too far behind. In order to beat Flannery with Grovyle, we have to make sure we have 3 things. 1, that Grovyle has evolved into Sceptile before the fight. 2, that we grab Dig from the Fossil Maniac house. And 3, that we also grab TM32 Double Team. If we get hit just once by Overheat from Camerupt or Torkoal, then we faint. As we start the fight against Flannery with Sceptile, we'll zoom out and see that Blaziken has already made it to our second encounter with Team Aqua after making quick work of Dad, and Marshtomp is realizing that it needs just a little bit more power to take Dad out. Poor Sceptile may never catch up here. On our first attempt against Flannery, we get so close with Sceptile with a critical hit with Dig, but then as you can see, Torkoal uses Overheat once and we are finished. Luckily, it only takes us 4 attempts to get past Flannery. After we beat Flannery, we make quick work of Brawly and head back to Petalburg to take on Dad. Both Sceptile and Swampert struggle a little bit with Slowking. If you remember, Slowking has unbelievable base stats. Slowking actually has the 10th highest base stats out of all Pokemon regardless of generation. This technically puts it higher than Kyogre. Help me out on this one. Groudon, 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 and Rayquaza. That's crazy. Anyways, Blaziken, like we said, wastes no time with a few bulk ups and double kicks. And after 8 failed attempts, Swampert finally takes down Slowking while holding on for dear life. And you have to check out this fight sequence against Sceptile. Remember, we beat our rival because of an Astonish by Lombre with just 2 HP left. We somehow avoided 3 overheats by Torkoal, and now we squeezed out this victory against Dad with a paltry 7 HP left, somehow waking up at just the right time. Luck might just be on our side, Sceptile. Alright, Let's have another quick checkpoint, shall we? Taking back first place is Blaziken with a blazing 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 43 seconds. Swampert comes in at second at 1 hour, 19 minutes, and 16 seconds. And still in third place is Sceptile at 1 hour, 25 minutes, and 22 seconds. Blaziken has a 16-minute lead on Swampert and a 22-minute lead on Sceptile right now. That is crazy. I knew the high base attack and decent speed stats for Blaziken will help out, but I honestly didn't think that he would be this far ahead at this point in the game. I know you made a pre-prediction beforehand, but do you maybe want to change your mind at this point? After finishing off our rival for the third time, we head off for Fort Tree City. At this point, the game is going to look quite different for each Pokemon going forward. No matter how hard I tried in the pre-run, Sceptile is just too underleveled to solo Winona. So we are actually going to do the same thing we did against Brawly. We'll skip this gym and come back later. However, this also means that we won't have access to Fly either, which I'm expecting to hurt Sceptile's time pretty significantly. So with Sceptile, we will actually go to Mount Pier, and then drop down to this nice lady to pick up Giga Drain, which we won't use until the Elite Four. We freak Groudon out, finish off Maxie relatively easy, thank you Rock Tomb, and head for Mossdeep City to fight our favorite Psychic twins and one of only 2 double battles that we can't skip. I debated back and forth whether to go to the abandoned ship with Swampert to get Ice Beam before fighting Winona, but with, you guessed it, Rock Tomb, Swampert makes quick work of Winona. After we finish off Winona, we quickly fight a Dewford town and surf over to the abandoned ship where we pick up Ice Beam. Maxie doesn't provide any kind of challenge to our newly Ice Beam buffed Swampert. We finish off the Team Aqua hideout Fang with his overly yoked grunt guy, and find ourselves on the beaches of Mossdeep City. Going into the Winona fight with Blaziken, I thought this was going to be pretty difficult. Blaziken after all is a fighting type, and all of Winona's Pokemon know Aerial Ace. We luck out here since Swablu is the first Pokemon sent out, and it allows us to use Bulk Up a few times. Well, to use it 6 times to be exact. And then we do the thing that Blaziken is known for. Oh, did I mention that Rock Tomb is incredibly effective in solo runs? Odd, huh? At this point, I'm thinking, dang, Blaziken just took out the one gym I thought was going to cause the most issues. If we can somehow get lucky AI on the water trainers in the Elite Four, he probably takes this race pretty easily. But little did I know what was to come for Blaziken. I wish there was more to show at Mount Pierre and at both of the hideouts, but honestly, except for getting access to PP Max and Team Magma's hideout, there isn't much to really say about this part of the game, so we're just going to skip right to Mossdeep City. When we arrive at Mossdeep City, we heal up our Pokemon and head straight for the twin rock towers, Solrock and Lunatone. When I was younger, it took me forever to figure out how to win this fight. On my first ever playthrough, I had to go catch a Wailmer and evolve it into a Wailord. Because remember, my first playthrough was with Blaziken, and I think I was maybe a young teenager or even a preteen. And yet, somehow we scored a victory against what I thought was the hardest gym battle. Well, turns out that even today that is still the case. Up to this point, we've been able to use only one Pokemon in each gym battle, and basically not had to worry too much except for our fight against Flannery with Sceptile. And, well, the tricky thing about fighting these twins is that they require you to have 2 Pokemon to fight. So, sadly, we'll be breaking the rules for just this fight. Anyways, let's get to it. I'm just going to let you watch how each of these first battles go, and you can make your own conclusion for what you think the best tactic going forward will be. Oof. Did you see that? Let's catch that replay again. Oh, maybe one more time. So, a few things have become quite clear. First, it is at this point that I realized Swampert was going to catch up very quickly to Blaziken. Second, Sceptile might have a fighting chance to come in second place as it takes the twins out at level 50. Oh, and by the way, I returned to Winona at level 50 with Sceptile and, well, you guessed it, Rock Tomb comes through for us again. And third, I have no idea what we're going to do about Blaziken's poor special defense, considering that each of the 4 different Pokemon that the twins have use Psychic. Luckily, on my first playthrough, I had somewhat of an idea of how to tackle these problems. In order for Blaziken to win this fight, we have to be at least level 56. This will allow Blaziken to one-shot Lunatone and Solrock with Double Kick after only using 1 bulk up. Next, we have to go grab Max Incense and Mount Pier. I guess there was something memorable from that place after all. If you don't remember, when a Pokemon is holding Max Incense, it lowers the accuracy of the opponent's Pokemon. We did say no items in battle, but we didn't talk about held items, which I think are okay here. We use a few Zincs to help Blaziken increase that good old special defense, and well, lastly we just need a little bit of luck. We lost some very precious time with Blaziken, but after all of this and our 13th attempt at this fight, we finally leave victorious. Those Zincs really came in handy on this one. We leave the gym at around 2 hours and 24 minutes in playtime. So, let's zoom out and check in on where the other 2 are. Oh my. It seems that Blaziken has gone from having a sizable lead to, well, about to lose its 22-minute lead on Sceptile, and was easily passed by Swampert during this gym battle. At this point, I didn't think either Pokemon was going to catch Swampert. I thought that Swampert was going to run away with the race, especially since we have taught it Earthquake, Ice Beam, and Surf, which turns out to be an incredibly solid moveset to deal with the Elite Four. Speaking of the Elite Four, ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the Elite Four, and what a journey and race it has been so far to get to this point. Let's recap. Swampert is in first place at... Wait. I think I'm forgetting something here. Oh, right. Hoenn, the last gym leader. Well, sadly not too much to say here for everyone. Swampert rolls through Hoenn after a few attempts. Sceptile was built for late game battles against water Pokemon and sweeps right through the team. And after a few bulk ups on Love Disc, Blaziken also sweeps the rest of Hoenn's team. Anyways, where were we? Right, the Elite Four. Apologies about that little detour. Swampert is in first place, arriving at the Elite Four at a time of 2 hours, 35 minutes, and 43 seconds. Blaziken sneaks back into second place, arriving at 2 hours, 50 minutes, and 30 seconds. And Sceptile enjoyed its ride in second for a brief moment, but comes in third place at 2 hours, 56 minutes, and 12 seconds. Now, for the Elite Four runs. Instead of showing you all the clips and fights for each battle, I'll show you the first run for each Pokemon at the same time, and we'll talk about what each Elite Four trainer presents and how we go about beating it with each Pokemon. If you would prefer to see more specific gameplays, let me know so I can include that next time on my videos. Blaziken and Swampert are both going to be holding the Max Incense throughout their runs, which doesn't do a whole lot until they fight Drake and Wallace at the end. Sceptile actually doesn't get one-shotted by too many of these moves in the Elite Four, so I actually ran this without a held item on Sceptile. In hindsight, I realized that Max Incense maybe doesn't help as much as I thought it would, but I think it became apparent over a few fights. So first up here we have Sydney. Because each Pokemon knows a fighting move, Swampert and Sceptile both have Brick Break, and Blaziken obviously has Sky Uppercut, Sydney is never much of a problem. All of his Pokemon are Dark-type, and he is the weakest trainer in the Elite Four. So, for the most part, he rarely causes me any problems, and is basically a clean sweep each time. So, apologies, but you won't be seeing much gameplay from him. As with all Ghost-type Elite Four trainers, also comes incredible unpredictability. And oh boy, in Generation 3, Phoebe certainly doesn't disappoint. Phoebe's first Dusclops knows Pressure, which can zap away the PP of your moves in an instant, which makes managing elixirs and when to save in the Elite Four quite challenging. It also knows Confuse Ray, Protect, and Curse. You know, Curse. The move that takes away your own HP and then attacks the opposing Pokemon each turn. Yeah, I realized rather quickly that if her first Dusclops landed Curse, there was no chance I would win the fight. I simply couldn't finish off her Pokemon fast enough. I had to reset every time. So the goal here was to get past her first 2 Dusclops without getting hit by Curse, and then Sableye and Banette were each one-hit KOs at the right levels. Except we have Glacia, the Ice Trainer. Basically, her Pokemon can be taken out relatively easy. Celio and Walrein go down to Leaf Blade from Sceptile, Brick Break from Swampert, and Sky Uppercut from Blaziken. And as long as we didn't miss Sky Uppercut with Blaziken, he had little issues in this battle. And her 2 Glalie are essentially the same, so using Brick Break and avoiding Ice Beam with Swampert and Sceptile proved to be an easy strategy. And for Blaziken, the Glalie didn't pose any kind of a threat. They don't have any water moves. Moving on, the Drake fight is when we have to start getting a little more strategic in our fights. Up to this point, I haven't had to worry too much about PP conservation in Elite Four, unless I got pressured by the first Dusclops against Phoebe, which didn't really happen too much. But now we have to be really careful about how we go about these fights and figuring out what level we need to be at to beat Drake and Wallace. If I choose to save before Drake and use an elixir, and then I realize I can't beat him, then I lost an elixir I could have used for my next run. And I don't want to run out of elixirs because then I won't have enough to beat Wallace at the end. Unfortunately, I only have about 3 or 4 elixirs that I collected in the game, and a few other ethers and max ethers. So at this point, it is a little bit of a trial and error even in my second playthroughs. When we get to Wallace, we will have to do the same thing except with TM moves. This will become most apparent for Sceptile and Swampert, who actually end up changing movesets right before they fight Wallace. So, let's get into our Drake strategy then. Well, it's actually surprisingly pretty simple. Shelgon pretty much always uses Protect and doesn't really have the right moveset to challenge Blaziken. It can use Rock Tomb, there it is again, which lowers Blaziken's speed, but after getting in a few bulk ups, we are able to use a combination of Sky Uppercut and Rock Tomb to finish Drake off. Here's a fun fact about Sceptile that I didn't know. Besides not knowing that it has an insanely good special attack in Gen 3, it can also learn Dragon Claw, which makes total sense because Sceptile is a dragon, lizard, leaf thing, right? I'm actually not sure anymore at this point. And Dragon Claw is definitely a physical attack move. I mean, Dragon Claw. Claw implies that I'm using my claws in the move, right? Wrong. Surprisingly, Dragon Claw has a base attack of 80, and it's a special attack move, which makes it the perfect move for Sceptile against Drake. In my first playthrough, I didn't use it with Sceptile, but in this race, it proves to be invaluable in this fight. Oh, and you can find Dragon Claw in Mount Gove after you get the HM Waterfall, so that was just a little pit stop before the Elite Four for Sceptile. And Swampert knows Ice Beam, and well, as we all know with the history of Ice Beam and Elite Four Dragon Trainers, Ice Beam is all you really need to say. After navigating through the Elite Four with each Pokemon, we come upon the champion, Wallace. And Wallace, you are the only thing standing between me and the ability to stop this timer. Not too surprisingly, Swampert ends up reaching Wallace first at 2 hours 58 minutes and 40 seconds. And well, in Swampert's first attempt, let's just say that it gets absolutely wrecked. I know that level 63 is a wee bit too low for Swampert to take on Wallace, so we might need to go level up. Blaziken clocks in at 3 hours 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and the same thing happens. At level 64, Blaziken can't even make it past Wallace's second Pokemon. And lastly, bringing up the rear is good old Sceptile at 3 hours 25 minutes and 50 seconds, who barely made it past Drake's Kingdra, thanks to somehow surviving burn damage. First Lombre, then Torkoal, Slocking. Wow, this Sceptile is just having a lucky day. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Swampert is ahead of Blaziken by about 4 minutes, which means Blaziken was able to cut off 11 minutes during the Elite Four, and Sceptile is quite far behind both of them. So really this is down to a 2-mon race. However, in Sceptile's first fight against Wallace, something interesting happens. Wailord goes down in one shot. Melodic lands an Ice Beam, but we're still going strong. Tentacruel goes down to Earthquake. Ludicolo goes down on a critical hit. Whiscash is just a Whiscash. And all of a sudden, here we are. On Sceptile's first attempt, we make it to the last Pokemon in the game, Wallace's Gyarados, who happens to know Hyper Beam, so that ends that conversation. But what if we could survive one of those Hyper Beams? I knew from my first playthrough that sometimes the Gyarados uses Dragon Dance instead, So, remember that little detour we took to get TM19? Yep, you guessed it, No, not Rock Tomb. Giga Drain. With Giga Drain in our arsenal, we can now heal during the next fight. We make it back to Gyarados with full health, get in 2 quick Leaf Blades while Gyarados uses Dragon Dance, and all of a sudden I realize that Sceptile has a chance at this. Except, what do all AI trainers do when their Pokemon get their red health? They annoyingly use a full restore. But not to be outdone, we get a critical hit and take Gyarados. No, wait, another full restore. Now, I feel like at this point it is important to check in with our friends Blaziken and Swampert. Oh, interesting. Both of them are still in their fights with Wallace, and they're behind Sceptile. Very interesting. I wonder how this is going to play out. Alright, let's finish this up. We know that at level 64, Blaziken can make it to Wallace. However, it is very clear after the first fight that it's just too low of a level to deal with all the water types. After all, it does have the biggest disadvantage against Wallace. We end up having to get Blaziken all the way up to level 72 before it can effectively take on Wallace. Blaziken's defense stats are just too low to survive water-based attacks. On our winning battle, we head into the fight with Wallace with our trusted trio of Sky Uppercut, Bulk Up, and Blaze Kick. We'll use Aerial Ace on Gyarados, Ludicolo, and Tentacruel. Wailord goes down in one shot to Sky Uppercut. Aerial Ace can one-hit KO Ludicolo at this level. Whiscash, well, it's a Whiscash. Even with its high defensive stats, Melodic is no match for Sky Uppercut. We go back and forth on Tentacruel and end up opting for Aerial Ace, and then while Wallace uses the full restore on Tentacruel, we opt for a Bulk Up. And even though we got poisoned by Toxic, we end up being okay. This Bulk Up allows us to 2-shot Gyarados with Aerial Ace, and we finish Wallace off at precisely 3 hours, 42 minutes, and 46 seconds. Well done, Blaziken. We'll have to see how that stacks up against Sceptile and Swampert. Moving on to Swampert, we meet Wallace again at level 66, and again realize that we just don't have the firepower to take on Wallace. Ludicolo knows Giga Drain, so unless we can take it out quickly, we stand no chance against it. But if you notice, Swampert is only 20 minutes ahead of Blaziken, and still has to go through the entire Elite Four again. Will Swampert be able to make up the time? At this point, it doesn't take us long to get back to Wallace, as long as we can avoid that bloody curse from Dusclops. Except this time we're at level 69 and armed with Hyper Beam. Our first fight doesn't go as planned, losing to a critical hit, Giga Drain from Ludicolo. Man, it's time getting close, only 10 minutes left to beat Wallace. At this point, I opted for a different tactic. I teach Swampert Return. If you don't know, Return is a normal attack that's damage depends on how much the Pokemon likes you. Well, considering that we've only used Swampert for the whole game, it turns out that Swampert likes us quite a bit. As you can see as evident with this attack on Wailord and Ludicolo. Finally, we avoided Giga Drain. Tentacruel goes down to Earthquake, Whiscash is... yep, it's a Whiscash. And even though we end up dying to Gyarados, I feel like we might have found the right strategy. We return back to the Gyarados fight, and this time we opt to use Return first instead of Hyper Beam. It does subpar damage, but we can use it 3 times to take out Gyarados and avoid those full restores. And we're still able to tank a Hyper Beam. And well, we get pretty lucky here at the end to critical hit a Melodic and finish off Wallace at 3 hours, 37 minutes, and 17 seconds. Right around 5 minutes faster than Blaziken. Now, for what you've been waiting for. In order for Sceptile to take first place, wow, I bet that isn't something you expected to hear after this whole time. We have to finish Wallace off in less than 12 minutes. At this point, I'm pretty excited to see what happens. Sceptile came so close in its first attempt against Wallace. I know that at level 67 and with Giga Drain, Sceptile can win this fight. Let's just hope it's fast enough to beat Swampert. On my 4th fight against Wallace, I think I have it in the bag. Wailord goes down to Leaf Blade, Melodic Leaf Blade, Tentacruel Earthquake, Ludicolo to Brick Break, and Whiscash... well, it's a Whiscash. And here we are at Gyarados. I played what I thought would be the perfect move. Giga Drain, followed by Brick Break, and then we take it out with Leaf Blade, and Sceptile is about to... Oh, we were so close. At 3 hours, 32 minutes, we have 1 chance left to beat Swampert. Wailord goes down the Leaf Blade. You can do this, Sceptile. And we know that Melodic goes down to a Leaf Blade, so... Oh, crap. Toxic. Well, friends, it's sad to say that this is the way we had to lose the race, but we want to honor the rules and not use any items in battle. There's simply no way to stay alive since we were poisoned with Toxic. We do our best, but in the end, Toxic proves to be too much. And after a few more fights, we end up victorious with Sceptile, after defeating Gyarados with, go figure, a critical shot with Dragon Claw. How convenient. Sceptile finishes with a very respectable 3 hours, 43 minutes, and 11 seconds. Wow. Ladies and gents, what a race. And what an unpredictable finish. It certainly took me by surprise. Let's recap. In first place, and crowned King of Hoenn starters, Swampert, at 3 hours, 37 minutes, and 17 seconds. In second place, we have Blaziken at 3 hours, 42 minutes, and 46 seconds. And finally, in a close third place, Sceptile at 3 hours, 43 minutes, and 11 seconds. Over the course of almost 4 hours, only 6 minutes separated Swampert and Sceptile, and I feel like at any point in this race, it could have swung in the favor of any of these Pokemon. Who could have possibly predicted that? All in all, friends, this was an incredibly fun race to do and to strategize for. Honestly, I didn't think Sceptile was going to be able to make up the lost time for not having access to fly until the later part of the game, and having to be at higher levels than Swampert and Blaziken for most of the earlier gyms. However, because Leaf Blade is a special attack in Gen 3, and Sceptile can learn Dragon Claw and Brick Break, it really made for almost a perfect moveset to move through the Elite Four. I think had I not been so stubborn to fight Wallace 5 or 6 times in a row at level 66 with Sceptile and leveled up a little bit more, or just used Brick Break instead of back-to-back Leaf Blades on my second fight, then Sceptile might have come out on top, which is crazy considering that Sceptile was behind the entire game. Blaziken had a great run, and ran into some pretty lucky AI while fighting the twins and Wallace, and performed basically how I thought it would. If we could get a few bulk ups in, and tank a couple attacks, then there wasn't any Pokemon that could really withstand a hit from Blaziken. Blaziken was also my favorite Pokemon growing up, and the first Pokemon I ever trained to level 100 without cheating, so maybe secretly I was hoping that it would somehow win. Time for some more honesty though. I have to thank Scott's Thoughts Dunsaurus run for showing me how to use Return in such an effective way, and for inspiring me to give these kind of videos a shot. I love your videos, man. My first playthrough with Swampert, I didn't use his TM and didn't realize how powerful it would end up being. I knew that Marshtomp and Swampert would be able to roll through every gym without too much trouble, but being able to use Return on Wallace in the Elite Four really saved this race for Swampert. However, because I recorded the Swampert run after the Blaziken run, I do wonder, would Blaziken be faster and actually come out on top if I were to use Return? After all, Return is a physical attack and Blaziken has the highest physical attack among the 3 starters, and can utilize Bulk Up. But then again, Sceptile almost took the crown if it hadn't been for faulty human input error, or a dang Gyarados. Dare I say that I'll have to do a follow-up run someday to make sure? Props to Swampert and for those who chose Swampert to win for coming out on top. I had a blast making this, writing the script, and strategizing for each part of the game. As I continue to do these challenges, I'm sure that I'll notice some more things that I can cut out and save time. I tried my best to use the fastest routes and movesets that I knew for each Pokemon in this race. But I want to ask you, did you notice something I could do better? Any way to make something go faster? Are there any tricks that I don't know about in this game? I purposely avoided bikes because riding a Mach bike on 4 times gameplay speed is a little hard to navigate, but I'd be delighted to know what you guys' thoughts are. Anyways friends, thanks for watching the video today. It means a lot that you would watch all the way until the end of my very first Poke race video. And what a privilege it was to do a race between Blaziken, Swampert, and Sceptile. 3 legendary starter Pokemon in probably my favorite generation of the series. I hope to see you again in the next video, and thanks for spending some time today on Nook's Corner. Wait, one last thing. After beating the Elite Four, then you've technically beaten the game, right? Well, actually, we all know that the true champion, who sadly isn't Pokemon Trainer Red, is waiting in Mount Cove. What if we extended the run to who is the fastest to beat champion Steven in Hoenn? Do you think that would change the outcome? Till next time on Nook's Corner, P's and B's, friends.